Hey, what is up guys? This is Bailey Stein with Android Authority, and let's say you have $400 to spend on one of the two hottest affordable flagships. So which one do you buy? Well, let's answer that question in our video comparison between the OnePlus 3 and ZTE Axon 7. Both phones share a number of design elements, starting with the aluminum unibodies. While the OnePlus 3 is slightly thinner and lighter than the Axon 7, it's not really noticeable in the hand thanks to the Axon 7's slightly more dramatic curve, which also helps reduce the size of the camera bump. You can purchase one of the many style swap covers to not only eliminate the OnePlus's slightly larger but still minor camera bump, but also to make the OnePlus easier to grip. While its flat edges do help with grip when using the phone without a case, they result in some pretty sharp corners, which I found to uncomfortably dig into my hands. The Axon 7 is much more comfortable and elegant looking because of ZTE's no-edge philosophy, but the trade-off is that it's even more slippery than the OnePlus. One of the OnePlus 3's more unique features is its alert slider, which is a handy visual indicator of your phone's ringer status. In regards to the navigation keys, both devices allow you to swap the back and multitasking buttons, which is certainly a great option to have. It's worth mentioning that the OnePlus's buttons are both illuminated and spread out more than the Axon 7's keys, which makes them easier to find. I also wish that ZTE would have included an option to enable on-screen keys like the OnePlus has. Both displays are 5.5-inch AMOLED panels, but the Axon 7 is of a higher Quad HD resolution compared to the OnePlus 3's 1080p resolution. Interestingly, the Axon 7 still has better battery life than the OnePlus 3, but I'll talk about that in just a moment. I have to agree that you don't really need a Quad HD display for daily use, as the difference compared to a full HD display isn't all that noticeable. If you don't plan on using a VR headset in the future, the OnePlus 3's display will be absolutely fine. And as a plus, it is a bit brighter, so sunlight readability is also slightly better. One other thing though, I noticed that the OnePlus 3's display tends to scratch more easily than the Axon 7's, despite both being coated in Corning Gorilla Glass 4. It might just be me, but do be aware that you might want to pick up a screen protector. Since both phones are being powered by the high-end Qualcomm Snapdragon 820 with the Adreno 530 GPU, performance is identical. I didn't notice a discernible difference when launching or using apps, despite the OnePlus 3's display theoretically being less of a burden on the GPU. The OnePlus 3 does include a whopping 6GB of RAM compared to the Axon 7's 4GB. And yes, I'm aware that there's also a 6GB Axon 7 variant, but it's not available in the US, at least not yet, and when it does launch, it's very likely going to be more expensive than the OnePlus 3. Anyway, 6GB is definitely good for future-proofing, but for the time being, this isn't a major advantage, at least in my opinion. One of the advantages that both the OnePlus 3 and Axon 7 offer is unlocked dual SIM support. Unlike the OnePlus 3, which is only fully compatible with AT&T and T-Mobile, the Axon 7 works on all major US carriers. You can also insert a microSD card into one of the SIM card slots on the Axon 7 to expand its 64GB of internal storage up to an additional 256GB. The OnePlus 3 does also include 64GB of storage, but it doesn't offer any expansion options, unfortunately. For the fingerprint readers, the OnePlus 3's is embedded in its home button on the front, whereas the Axon 7 is slightly recessed on the back, below the camera. Both readers are very fast and accurate, and although the OnePlus 3 seems very slightly faster side by side, the difference isn't really noticeable day to day. The Axon 7 also has a major advantage with its dual stereo front-facing speakers. The OnePlus 3's single bottom-firing speaker is loud, sure, but it sounds distorted, and is only overall of average quality. The Axon 7 setup is exceptional. With Dolby Atmos surround sound technology, this is perhaps the best mobile audio experience. I also found the Axon 7's battery life to be about 15% better in a Geekbench battery life test and about 25% better in daily use, likely thanks to better power management in ZTE's software. The sizes are 3,250 mAh for the Axon 7 and 3,000 mAh for the OnePlus 3. You can expect about 5 hours of screen on time with the Axon and about 4 with the OnePlus. For fast charging, each company has taken a different approach. The Axon 7 has Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3.0 for a 50% charge in 30 minutes, while the OnePlus 3 has dash charging for a 60% charge in 30 minutes, which, despite the difference in percentages, is about the same amount of usage time. I do like how dash charging keeps the heat in the charger rather than the phone, but I personally prefer Quick Charge 3.0 for its ubiquity and compatibility with more than just designated OnePlus cables. The OnePlus 3's camera is 16 megapixels with an f2.0 aperture, and the Axon 7 is 20 megapixels with an f1.8 aperture. Both cameras have OIS and PDAF. In good lighting, I slightly prefer the Axon 7's images more, and here's why. While the OnePlus 3 offers more accurate color reproduction, it seems to prefer a cooler color tone compared to the Axon 7's warmer tone, which is something that I personally think looks more natural, despite the Axon 7's sometimes unnatural looking color reproduction. The colors are more saturated with the Axon 7 too, which can make certain parts of an image pop. With that said, both cameras lack vividness in some shots, and I noticed that the OnePlus 3 liked to bring up the shadows, which sometimes led to flat-looking images. For low-light images, neither did well at all, unfortunately. Both cameras produce soft and noisy images with subpar color reproduction. Although, I will say that the OnePlus 3 does a much better job at distributing light across the image, allowing for oftentimes sharper and more detailed shots. It doesn't go crazy with noise reduction like the Axon 7 does either, so images don't look as bad as they do with the Axon 7 in low-light environments. Both phones support 4K video recording, but it's sort of a toss-up as to which image is better. Many of the things I noticed when looking at daytime images are also visible here. If you look closely, the Axon 7 does appear to have more artifacts, but it's less noisy than the OnePlus 3's image. OIS seems a bit wonky on the OnePlus 3 as well, and there is some minor corner warping here and there. Generally speaking, the Axon 7 seems to do better in good lighting and during video, while the OnePlus 3 offers slightly less disappointing low-light images. The Axon 7's camera app offers a bit more in pure functionality, but outside of those features, the experience is mostly the same. Each app is easy to use while still offering comprehensive manual modes. For software, both include Android 6.0.1 Marshmallow, but the OnePlus 3 includes Oxygen OS 3.22 on top of Android, while the Axon 7 includes Mi Favor UI 4.0. Whereas OnePlus conforms fairly closely to stock Android while still adding a few useful features and settings, ZTE takes a more interventionist approach, with a good number of UI tweaks and unique features. There's nothing really wrong with that on its own, but it's worth mentioning that Oxygen OS does feel more polished. While some of ZTE's additions are clever, there are still some fairly rough edges. For example, you have to press the notification bell on the lock screen every time you want to see your notifications. And unlike stock Android, there's no option to change this. If you're interested in things like custom ROMs, the OnePlus 3 will likely be a better match thanks to its better developer support, mostly due to its unlocked bootloader. The Axon 7's bootloader is locked out of the box and currently cannot be unlocked, so it's difficult to say whether we'll ever see that sort of variety come to the Axon 7. You can purchase either phone unlocked in either gray or gold for $400. The Axon 7 is available from various retailers, while the OnePlus 3 can be purchased from the OnePlus website. Do keep in mind that ZTE offers much better after-sales support with its premium 2-year warranty, Axon Passport 2.0. Although OnePlus offers a standard 1-year warranty, their customer support has been notoriously lousy, so you'd likely have a better experience with ZTE if you ever need help. Both the OnePlus 3 and ZTE Axon 7 deliver excellent smartphone experiences at very affordable prices. To be clear, you'll be very happy with either option you go with. However, if you'd like an alert slider, 6GB of RAM, a better camera for low light, and a more polished software experience, you should take a closer look at the OnePlus 3. On the other hand, if you'd rather have a higher resolution display, support for all major US carriers, microSD card expansion, a killer audio setup, better battery life, and a 2-year premium warranty, you can't go wrong with the Axon 7. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to give it a thumbs up below if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Finally, be sure to visit the Android Authority website for additional coverage, as we are your source for all things Android.